Hey guys. Hello, hello. So I found this fun little book at the Altadena Library, and I got my ring light. Alexander Hamilton, Wit and Wisdom. And I thought, wouldn't it be fun to do an Alexander Hamilton bibliomancy session for you guys tonight? So I'm going to go through all of the astrological signs. Oh, secret tomes tucked away. This is from The Economist, August 29th, 2020. It's all about the panini. Different statistics about the panini. Interesting. I didn't realize that was in here. I just bought this today. Food for thought. Alexander Hamilton, of course, being a Federalist and the one who instituted the federal banking system, right? And then, of course, I think people are somewhat familiar with the musical. I am not. I never watched the musical. I kind of hate musicals. Please don't tar and feather me for hating musicals. Just say the words out loud. You don't have to sing. So let's get started with the sign of... Oh, I'm going to have to take this out, actually, because if I leave it in there, it's going to... And I think for the bibliomancy, I'm also going to take the cute little dust jacket off. But I'll tuck those things aside. They're safe. They're all going to go back in here when we're done. So this will be for the sign of Aries. This will be for the sign of Aries. In a civil society, it is the duty of each particular branch to promote not only the good of the whole community, but the good of every other particular branch. If one part endeavors to violate the rights of another, the rest ought to assist in preventing the injury. When they do not, but remain neutral, they are deficient in their duty, and may be regarded, in some measure, as accomplices. That is true, Mr. Hamilton. He's right about that. I'll give you another one from the opposite page, too. In popular governments, 'tis useful that those who propose measures should partake in whatever dangers they may involve. So, for you this week, Aries, or I guess maybe we'll call these for February. I said week, so it might be going on for you this week. It seems like a process that's going to take a week to unfold. So it might happen sometime during February. there's going to be a situation that comes up where you're going to have to put something on the line, that you're going to have to stake something to protect others, not to protect yourself. I feel like you are in a position where you're not necessarily safe from these hazards, but you're not in as much danger as some of the other people involved. And so from your place of privilege, you will need to defend the rights of others. And you may put yourself at risk or make yourself a target by doing so. But it's going to be important for you to follow through with that. This is dusty. What's the point of having a dust jacket if it's gonna get dusty? Maybe they didn't keep the dust jacket on. Maybe they put the dust jacket on to send it to the library. So next we're going to do the sign of Taurus. It may be truly said of every government, as well as of that of the United States, that it has only a right to pass such laws as are necessary and proper to accomplish the objects entrusted to it. For no government has a right to do merely what it pleases. So, Taurus. I think either you're going to be in a position to enforce against the formation of unjust laws, such that you are going to have to stand up and say, this actually is not the correct thing to instate into policy. This could be in a workplace, it could be in your home, it could be in your personal life as well. There are many different options. Oh, John Lawrence. What a handsome guy, John Lawrence. And I'll take another sentence from this letter, which was to John Lawrence. But as you have done it, and as we are generally indulgent to those we love, I shall not scruple to pardon the fraud you have committed, on condition that for my sake, if not for your own, you will always continue to merit the partiality which you have so artfully instilled in me. And so it says, but he started that by saying, you should not have taken advantage of my sensibility to steal into my affections without my consent. So that's the fraud that he's talking about John Lawrence having committed. I wish grown men would still write each other love letters in this day and age like that. Deeply affectionate for each other, even in impartiality. I suspect there are alliances which guide your sense of right and wrong in this situation. That you feel there is a need to protect somebody. think there's a frog or something outside my car. I hear like little croaking noises. It could be a frog or it could be a bird, but there's like a big puddle right in front of my car, so it's probably a frog. So the laws, which are unjust, that are being instated, the people that you care about, you feel the need to protect them. There's a recurring theme so far in the readings, which is protecting the people that we love and care about, even if it means putting ourselves at risk. Not necessarily in danger, but that is possible. So now let's do the sign of Gemini. Gemini, Sun, Moon, and Rising. We have now happily concluded the great work of independence, but much remains to be done to reach the fruits of it. So, in February, Gemini, you might be putting a plan into place, but it's going to take a lot more than just the development of this plan to put it into action. Now, this makes a lot of sense for me because Gemini is my North Node placement. It's like the only thing I have on that side of my natal chart. Most of it is 12th house through like 5th house, I think. Yeah. What more can I tell Gemini about this project and how long it will take to execute? I got 6 months, just kind of popped into my head. So if this is something you start in February, that would be around August. By the time you get, that might not be a state of total completion, but that would at least be like the completion of phase 1 of whatever process you're embarking upon. Some of you will have help in the project. Some of you, this is a fairly independent undertaking. Are there going to be personnel issues? Always, right? It's a project. What can I get about Gemini's personnel issues or lack thereof? Personnel harmony or personnel issues. Ambition without principle never was long under the guidance of good sense. Ambition without principle never was long under the guidance of good sense. Okay, so what he's saying here is that even if you're very ambitious, that will not carry you through unless you're very principled about how you go about things. And that is what is going to help you maintain a harmonious work environment as well. Because people who have a tendency to play fast and loose with the rules often can be the ones who are disruptive and problematic. That's not always the case, but sometimes it is. Perhaps in your case, that's how things would be if you were not principled about how you went about things. So next, the sign of Cancer. Oh, look. Letters to Angelica Schuler Church. And here she is throwing her baby at a servant. I'm just kidding. She just looks very, very disaffected in this image that's been painted of her, whereas the servant looks very affectionate towards the child. If you knew the power you have to make happy, you would lose no opportunity of writing to Betsy and me, for we literally feast on your letters. Life is too short to warrant procrastination of the most favorite and precious objects. So, perhaps you would be better served in this time, Cancer, to be more affectionate to others, to grace others with your correspondence. Writing letters has largely fallen out of favor in the modern era, but why not bring it back? Old-fashioned snail mail correspondence. An email, a text, a phone call. It could be that it's a good time for you, Cancer, in the month of February, to reach out to the people that you care about in a really personal way. Don't just post things on social media and wait for people to respond. Like, actually reach out to your friends and let them know what's been going on with you. You don't necessarily have to talk about your feelings or, get bogged down by unpleasant details. Something like a Christmas card, but for Valentine's Day. That would be kind of fun. So now we're moving on to the sign of Leo. What do we have? Mr. Hamilton, what do we have for Leo for the month of February? Justice is the end of government. It is the end of civil society. It ever has been, and ever will be, pursued until it be obtained, or until liberty be lost in the pursuit. In a society under the forms of which the stronger faction can readily unite and oppress the weaker, anarchy may as truly be said to reign as in a state of nature where the weaker individual is not secured against the violence of the stronger. And as in the latter state, even the stronger individuals are prompted by the uncertainty of their condition to submit to a government which may protect the weak as well as themselves. So in the former state will the most powerful factions be gradually induced by a like motive, to wish for a government which will protect all parties, the weaker as well as the more powerful. And he says, in the former state will the more powerful factions. So I apologize. I said most. but he was only comparing the weak and the powerful. So that's only two things. So it wouldn't be most, it would just be more. But he's right. Justice is the end of government, but the government should protect all parties, no matter how weak nor how powerful. This might be something that has been large on your mind lately, Leo. A lot of you will be having your half birthday in February. It is Aquarius season. My personal half birthday is Valentine's Day. But there's the potential here, even though you can't always pick your government. That's how it was supposed to be, but that's not always what you get. You might find a way into situations where this is the case, that the weak as well as the powerful are being properly protected by the prevailing structure. So it might not be the whole United States federal government. It might just be an organization in which you find yourself a part. So now we're going to do the sign of Virgo. Sign of Virgo. On life. And look at Alexander Hamilton's beautiful house. That's a cool house. I like the columns. Called it Hamilton Grange, and it was located in New York, New York. And that's where he lived the last 2 years of his life. I really like these long shutters here on this porched-in area. Virgo, on life. A garden, you know, is a very usual refuge of a disappointed politician. Accordingly, I have purchased a few acres about 9 miles from town, have built a house, and am cultivating a garden. There might be things that you've pursued in your life, Virgo, that, oh, that's my stomach, sorry, that you've been disappointed in recently. Now, it might not have been politics. It could have been other things to do with fame, fortune, power, or even tyranny. I see you on that state of Virginia flag, stepping on that guy. But what you're going to be finding in the month of February is a refuge. A place where you can plant seeds and watch them grow. I'm going to continue reading these other two. They're very short. For one cannot always live on hope. 'Tis thin diet at best. Real firmness is good for anything. Strut is good for nothing. Or as I remember from the Sprite commercial, image is nothing. Thirst is everything. Obey your thirst. This guy was ahead of his time. His eyes look super dark. on the cover of this book, by the way. Like, why are his pupils so dilated? So now we're going to do the sign of Libra. I met 2 people today who had big stelliums in Libra. Libra is a very balanced sign. And actually, this is the second time this story has come up, so I'm going to tell it before I do your bibliomancy. And it is about how Virgo and Scorpio are like the masculine and feminine halves of the same energy. And they were split into 2 different parts by the constellation of Libra. And people talk about that being in the fall, or the that there was a time of perfection and then something happened and the bottom fell out of perfection, and that's why we're here doing all of this. So I thought I would bring that up for you, Libra. Don't tell the other signs, okay? It's a secret between you and me and everybody else who already knows that. I'm going to read these top 2 for you, Libra. Let us recollect that peace or war will not always be left to our option, that however moderate or unambitious we may be, we cannot count upon the moderation or hope to extinguish the ambition of others. That's a very Libra one. Real liberty is neither found in despotism or the extremes of democracy, but in moderate governments. So, inviting you, Libra, to embrace your moderation. Hamilton was a really smart guy. What was his sign? When was he born? Does it say on the dust jacket here? I bet it says in here somewhere. In the beginning? Maybe? Maybe it doesn't say in here. I'll reveal his astrological sun sign at the end of the readings, maybe. Okay, next is Scorpio. I know a lot of you were probably conceived in the month of February. That's what they say. Valentine's Day is a Scorpio conspiracy to create more Scorpios. Ooh, what's this? That is a really good, let's see if I can make it show up. That is a really good rendering of Hamilton. Civil liberty is only natural liberty, modified and secured by the sanctions of civil society. It is not a thing in its own nature, precarious and dependent on human will and caprice, but it is conformable to the constitution of man, as well as necessary to the well-being of society. a sacred respect for the constitutional law as the vital principle, the sustaining energy of a free government. Is it not time to awake from the deceitful dream of a golden age and to adopt as a practical maxim for the direction of our political conduct that we, as well as the other inhabitants of the globe, are yet remote from the happy empire of perfect wisdom and perfect virtue? Civil liberty, constitutional law, and perfect wisdom and perfect virtue. There might be a need to institute a more perfect order in your own day-to-day activities in the month of February, Scorpio. Instead of just kind of wandering through the month and doing your normal activities, it might be time to institute more rigid scheduling. This could involve carving out a part of your evening to work on whatever your passion is. It could be waking up an hour early to institute an exercise regimen, or going to bed an hour later to institute an exercise regimen. Maybe there are some certain vices that need to be reined in a little bit. And maybe it's not that you need to cut them out entirely, but rather sit down with your calendar and pencil in when you want to do certain things. So that's my advice for you for the month of February, Scorpio. So now we're going to move on to the sign of Sagittarius. Sagittarius. Going into the month of February. What is for you to be had? On government. And we have the Federalist here, the frontispiece for that book that he wrote. Collection of essays written in favor of the new Constitution. So some of you could be working on a book of your own on government. Peace made, a new scene opens. The object then will be to make our independence a blessing. To do this, we must secure our union on solid foundations, an Herculean task, and to effect which mountains of prejudice must be leveled. So he's talking about creating a very stable foundation in order to... No, what is he saying? He's saying we're creating a very stable, flat foundation, but in order to do so, we have to bring down these mountains of prejudice against us. So it could be that there are people who don't support what it is that you're doing. But whatever it is that you're heading into in the month of February, you'll have a very solid foundation for it, and I don't think you'll let the criticism get you down. In the usual progress of things, the necessities of a nation in every stage of its existence will be found at least equal to its resources. So all the resources are there. You just have to know where to find them. And most importantly, you have to believe that they will be available to you when you need them. So now the sign of Capricorn. Guess who else was a Capricorn? This guy. I know that we're no longer in Capricorn season, but I thought this was a fun little book. And we're still kind of in that, Pluto has just moved into Aquarius. So we're still kind of in the shadow period of Capricorn season where we're still feeling the effects. And actually, Capricorn was where the Sun and Pluto had their conjunct. So the Sun probably won't conjunct Aquarius Pluto this year. In times of such commotion as the present, while the passions of men are worked up to an uncommon pitch, there is great danger of fatal extremes. Well, that definitely was Pluto in Capricorn. There is a certain enthusiasm in liberty that makes human nature rise above itself in acts of bravery and heroism. The public mind, fatigued at length with resistance to the calumnies which eternally assail it, is apt in the end to sit down with the opinion that a person so often accused cannot be entirely innocent. So there could be things, Capricorn, that you're being accused of at this time. These are things that you're often accused of. Or maybe your character is often being assaulted by certain people. And it's usually not worth it to bring defamation suits to court unless it's a really big deal. But if you're able to separate yourself from the people who are leveling these accusations against you, they're never going to believe that you are the person that you say you are. They're always going to have this misconception about you based on things that are false. And as Hamilton was saying, there's a fatigue that occurs in the psyche in which, after accusations have been leveled for a certain period of time, people don't remember if they're true or not. Oh, somebody left their hair in here. I wonder if it was me. Be gone. It's a blonde hair. It's not mine. So now we're going to move on to the sign of Aquarius. Aquarius. This is your birthday month, probably, if you haven't had your birthday already at the end of January. Do we look kind of similar? Wait. Aquarius. If the federal government should overpass the just bounds of its authority and make a tyrannical use of its powers, the people, whose creature it is, must appeal to the standard they have formed, and take such measures to redress the injury done to the Constitution as the exigency may suggest and prudence justify. So there might be somebody in a position of authority in your life in the month of February, Aquarius, who is overstepping their authority with you or with people that you know. It could be a workplace. It could be the federal government. In politics, as in religion, it is equally absurd to aim at making proselytes by fire and sword. Heresies in either can rarely be cured by persecution. There might be punitive aspects to this, where people are threatened with some kind of punitive action if they fail to step into line, and the expectations in this situation might be unrealistic. What is the way for Aquarius to get out of this? Every individual of the community at large has an equal right to the protection of government. So you might have to go over somebody's head. You might have to appeal to a higher portion of the structure in which you are involved. And on your birthday, that's not fair to you, Aquarius. That is not fair to you. But as a fellow fixed sign, I know that you probably have the same feelings about right and wrong that I might. When the sword is once drawn, the passions of men observe no bounds of moderation. So there might also be extremes going on in this situation. I mean, of course there are, because otherwise it would not be occurring. Is there anything else I can tell Aquarius about this situation? You have a good heart. I mean, I can feel that in this situation. But there are people around you, and they're trying to bring you down. Because you have the power to conquer with the goodness of your spirit. And that is seen as threatening by people who are soulless. They might not literally be soulless, but they might not be possessing the same soul and spirit that you do, Aquarius, and they might find it threatening. You will prevail. You will prevail in this situation. Happy birthday, Aquarius. Alright, so now we made it all the way around to you, Pisces. All the way around to Pisces. What have I for you, Pisces? Oh, I want to read this. I don't know if it's going to be for better or for worse, Pisces. This was leading up to the duel between Hamilton and Burr. So I have to read it because this part is exciting. I deem it inadmissible on principle to consent to be interrogated as to the justness of the inferences which may be drawn by others from whatever I may have said of a political opponent in the course of a 15 years competition. You may have had a rival for a really long time, and they're bringing up stuff from like ages and ages ago. And you're like, there's no way I'm going to remember saying that. There's no way I could remember saying that. That happened so long ago. I mean, it's possible that they do have screenshots from 2011. I suppose that's fair. But are we really judging each other on stuff that we did and said in 2011? And that's the point. It was 15 years ago. And he's talking not even about full-on receipts. He's talking about inferences of what might have been meant by said screenshot. Between gentlemen, despicable and more despicable are not worth the pains of a distinction. There might be something coming up now from your past, Pisces. Now, this could be somebody who's been a rival for a long time or an adversary, but it could be something that crops up out of the blue. Something that you'd forgotten about, but not something that was necessarily resolved. So this would be something that is coming up again now, possibly because now we've been through the full Pluto in Capricorn cycle. That would have been like 12 years. And now Pluto's in Aquarius. So 12 years from now, it's going to be in your sign, Pisces. I hope you're prepared. But before it was in Capricorn, it was in your fellow mutable sign of Sagittarius, which is fire energy. So that would have been a square placement to your sun, moon, or rising, like your first house. If Pisces is your rising sign, then while Pluto's been in Capricorn, it would have been in your 11th house, and now it's going to be in your 12th house, which is the house of endings. So Pluto being in your 12th house, you might be seeing a lot of endings coming through over the next 12 years. It's a heck of a ride. I stand ready to avow or disavow promptly and explicitly any precise or definite opinion which I may be charged with having declared of any gentleman. More than this cannot fitly be expected of me. So any opinion that is precise or definite. And you can't expect more of yourself than that. All of these inferences, all of this, well, what does this person think that I meant by X, Y, or Z? It doesn't matter. It can't. It literally can't matter. You have to go off of things that were actually said, especially if they're things that were said a long time ago. You can't be looking back at those screenshots and thinking like, well, but you were dating this person at the time, and what was your relationship with that person like, and why would it maybe have made you sing? No, you can't do it. You can't do it that way. And no one can expect you to do it that way either. And I just hope, Pisces, that it does not lead you into pugilism as it did with our Capricorn friend, Mr. Hamilton. Gosh, the whole thing with Aaron Burr, that must have been so stressful. Oh my God. I hope you don't get too stressed out in the month of February, Pisces. I'm drinking Clearly Canadian again. Thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you for stopping by for our Alexander Hamilton themed February bibliomancy. I would use that book again for bibliomancy. It's kind of perfect for it. He is a Capricorn, so I kind of missed the end of Capricorn season doing this for February, but I think it'll be okay because we're still kind of dealing with the repercussions of Pluto moving out of Capricorn and into Aquarius. So maybe in March I'll have something that's a little more Aquarius appropriate. Or maybe, maybe in a couple of weeks or something like that. We'll see what happens. I've just been kind of doing these things as I feel like it's appropriate. So, thank you. Thank you. And until next time.